Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about clients trying to get services for free. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, I work as a web developer and some of my clients are trying to milk me for more services for free once I've submitted my completed site. How can I avoid this? Well, you will ideally you should create a contract that reflects the expectations of the expectations that your customer can have of your services. So usually the way it goes is, and this is a bit of a problem, if you have to find that balance between keeping your customer happy and not letting them exploit you. So an example would be if you create something and there's a bug in your system that doesn't really or makes it unfeasible for the customer to use the product. That is it's probably a very good idea if you fix that, because the customer is going to be very unhappy with you. But on the other side, if they come back to you and say, no, we've actually changed our minds and we think this should work in that way, or like they want to change a feature or something like that, that's where you get into the realm of extra work. And you need to be upfront about what they can expect from you in terms of support once this product is shipped, and what they're going to have to pay you to do. So fixing a bug that makes the system unfunctioning or something like that is definitely something that you should take a look at, because now the product is actually broken. You can in this case sort of think about it as if you've bought a physical product in a store or something like that. If the customer cannot use the product, you you should probably have a look at that, unless you have some magical contract there where you don't have to. But then I will argue that you put yourself in a bad position as well, because now your customer satisfaction is going to fall, and unless that's okay with you, that's not a good thing for you as a professional. It's pretty good on average that people are happy with the stuff that you're making. But on the other hand, if you have issues with, as I was saying, they want to change something, like they want to update something or so forth, that's extra services, and you don't owe them anything in that area, so you need to set those expectations. A trick that I like to use that works extremely well, regardless of if it is in a product company or if it's something you do by yourself, this I always do this, is that I have a handoff workshop with the customer. And basically what that means is, well, in the product companies we usually call it acceptance testing. And that means that the stakeholder, whoever it is, gets to play around with the system once it's time to deliver, or rather right before it's time to deliver. So I don't just hold up my product and I say, hey, this is the thing, it's built now, everything works, here it is. What I do is that I book a meeting saying that saying to them that you are going to have a certain amount of hours now in a few days here to test the product. And if you're happy with it, then this is what I'm going to deliver to you. This is the only time you have now to make changes or anything like that, and usually that's enough of an incentive for them to get really enthusiastic, because if you're dealing with this, especially if you're dealing with non-technical customers or people who have like small businesses and stuff like that, they might struggle to find the time to actually help you out with this. But if you tell them, like, this is an ultimatum basically, that this is the only time, we have a schedule here, so I expect you to take a look at this. Once this is shipped, this is what you're stuck with, because once again, you should have a contract, a legal contract that states that you don't owe them anything else, because otherwise you might get into trouble. And then you give them the product where they can play around with it, they can use it, ask questions, and etc. etc. You gather some feedback, and then depending on, because usually they always come with change requests and stuff like that, and once again that gets us back to the contract and the agreement and the scope, because if they do what we call scope creep, you can either allow it depending on how much extra work it is, or you can deny it based on what what your agreement is. This is the problem. This is why you need to understand that you need to have a business mindset here, and you need to understand how people work when they give you feedback on software and IT products. Whenever you're developing anything, and this is why I tell a lot of people that if you want to be a freelancer, I strongly urge you to be to go into the industry and get a few years of training before you do this on your own, because you are going to have to deal with a lot of shit otherwise, where this exact thing happens, where they can change the scope, and because you have no agreement, they're not going to pay you if you don't do it. And there's all kinds of pitfalls that you might find yourself in, where you might get exploited if you don't know what you're doing. So by starting off with having a contract that very clearly states how the work is going to be done, and then having a set of artboards or something where you very clearly define how the system is going to work before you start working, and then having a handoff or a workshop where you show the work before it's going to be delivered, and you gather some feedback, you minimize the risk of you getting into this position. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you're dealing with a customer who's trying to get extra services from you, you need to have a thought on how you want to deal with that. Now, I personally divide up these sorts of projects into, all right, stuff that I'm going to ship once and stuff that I need to maintain. If you need to maintain something, or you know that this customer is going to have like requirements on like you hosting the thing, or like if it's not just you giving them a website, well, then you should charge them then they should basically pay you a license fee, because you're forced to check on uptimes and like do all this extra stuff that is connected to running a live system. So you're gonna lose out on a lot of money if you just take it as a one lump sum paid to you on delivery, right? But on the other hand, if you're dealing with like just a website that you're going to produce, and they're going to host it, they're going to take care of everything, really make sure that you have a contract in place that specifies how the delivery is expected, what you owe them once the delivery is done. Then when the planning starts, you scope everything and define it really well. It has to be defined, and then they have to sign off on what's going to be delivered, because otherwise they might change their minds later on. That's not good. And then lastly, have a handoff workshop where you show the work before you're going to deliver it, so you don't have to, like, they are not so likely to come back a few days later, a few weeks later, and say, oh no, this has to work, or so forth and so forth. And if they do start doing that, you have to be, and you should have done that from the first, like from the get-go. You have to make it really really clear to your customer what you consider something that you should fix once the delivery is done, which is usually a critical bug or something like that. And then you define what the critical bug is and what is extra features or extra work that they are going to have to pay you for. Have a great day.